Thousands of Coloradans joined a nationwide movement today, the No Kings protests, in opposition to the Trump administration and its policies. This is now the second protest of its kind, and here in Colorado, protests span the state. The largest group by far, though, gathered in downtown Denver. Huge crowds filled the front lawn of the state capitol before they marched through the streets of Denver, at one point filling up several city blocks. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jennifer Meckles. Today's protests across Colorado were peaceful, and that larger, organized group in downtown Denver mostly went home by late afternoon. Late tonight, Denver police says there were some smaller groups of demonstrators that stuck around to march through the evening. Tonight, DPD tells us they've made 12 arrests and had to disperse a group before they could get onto a highway. In context, though, we saw thousands upon thousands of people filling the streets of Denver for hours today with no issue. And as we look at this national protest story, what makes these No Kings protests different than last time is how Republicans have characterized the protesters as extremists and terrorists.
We refer to it by its more accurate description, the Hate America rally, okay? And I'm not sure how anybody can refute that.
9 News reporter Rhea Jah spent her day down at the Capitol asking protesters what brought them out and how they feel about leaders on the right calling them un-American.
I am an almost 40-year veteran of the Environmental Protection Agency.
I am a strong Catholic believer. I'm also a 65-year-old Mexican-American.
This is my great-grandson, this is my son.
Obviously, we are the future of this country.
These are the No Kings protesters who President Trump and his Republican allies are describing as a national threat.
I mean, look around. There's people in whale costumes. There's grandmas. I'm a grandma. This is anything but a terrorist organization or activity.
This is what democracy looks like.
Top Republicans calling Saturday's No Kings demonstrations the work of Antifa, a movement the president recently designated as a domestic terrorist organization.
It's just plain scary is what it is.
But honestly, it shows that we're not using the government to care for people. We're using the government to attack people and to make them scared, which is more, I would say, terrorism than anything else.
The label is intimidating, but for many here, they are confronting their fears by facing it head on.
The Speaker of the House, along with all of the sycophants in Washington, are declaring to the world that Antifa is a bunch of terrorists and that this is a Hate America rally. But actually, we love America.
No, this is very American. This is, oh my gosh, protest is how we all started.
People here say they showed up for America and the issues they care about.
My biggest issue is health care.
So I'm a federal employee, and I'm seeing that the federal agencies are being torn down and that we can't serve the public.
I feel like immigrants have been the lifeblood of this country. So the irony of suddenly us deciding they're a bad thing is not acceptable in my book.
From veterans to teenagers to babies, they came to prove that protest isn't an act of defiance, but an act of democracy.
You know, a protest like this is exactly what we need to do. We need to show everybody that this has to stop.
That was Rhea Jah reporting. Those protests stretched far beyond Denver and Colorado today. We saw crowds in Boulder, Longmont, Littleton, Fort Collins, even a group on the Overlook in Genesee over I-70. These protesters also pushed back on claims that rallies were un-American.
None of these people feel like terrorists. There's a lot of joy, there's a lot of happiness, there's a lot of smiling. These are the happiest terrorists I've ever met.
The rallies we saw in Colorado were all part of a larger movement in cities across the country. Marches are happening as immigration raids and arrests ramp up, as well as the Trump administration sending National Guard troops to Democratic-run cities. The Trump administration says that move is to help fight against rising crime and protect federal property. Protesters, though, and Democratic leaders in those cities say it's government overreach.
I just think that there's such a dichotomy between what's being said by the right versus what's actually happening in the left. Trump has said a lot about Portland being a war zone. Everything's on fire. Businesses can't even stay open. They have to rebuild out of wood, basically nonsense.
Our nation's democracy is at stake, and we are here to say we are a nation that will not be bowing down to any authoritarian rule.
Just a couple examples of some of these protests around the country. There were roughly 2,500 scheduled protests that happened across the country today. All right, to some other headlines now. Some people in Colorado felt a rumble yesterday afternoon. The U.S. Geological Survey says there was a small earthquake near Castle Rock, about 30 miles southeast of Denver. It hit Colorado just before 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon. USGS says it was a magnitude 3.0, relatively shallow, and they think possibly triggered by several minor faults that crisscross the state. Now let's talk about your forecast. Chris Spears joining us tonight. Nice to see our friend. It's a really beautiful fall weekend.
It is a little crisp out there, but I like that. It lets you know that it is mid-October when you feel that little crispness in the air. Temperatures today a little bit cooler. A cold front came through this morning. It turned quite windy as it went by, so we only made it to 63 for a high, but honestly, that's about where we should be for this time of the year. The record 84. We're going to get back into the 70s tomorrow, so an unusually warm day coming up before we cool back again on Monday. We are 40 in Central Park, 37 in Centennial here at the station, 42, 33 out at DIA, and we are in the 30s and even a few 20s now showing up here on the northeastern plains, 30s in the southeast, 30s in the high country with mostly 40s now on the western slope. The wind earlier was quite strong. It has really settled down here. Most locations under 10 miles per hour as far as sustained wind speeds. We're going to keep that wind light and variable all night long. Your headlines look like this. We have a frost and freeze situation tonight. The growing season might end for some of you. Looking ahead to Monday, fire danger comes back along with wind and some light mountain snow. I'll have all of those details for you in the forecast in just a bit.
All right, Chris, thank you. The only domestic violence safe house in Weld County says they are really struggling to meet the needs of the community. 9 News reporter Colton Chavez dives into the issues they face as they serve one of Colorado's largest counties.
It's an issue that knows no bounds.
And it's probably happening closer to home than people realize.
A nonprofit in northern Colorado is trying to make a difference.
A Woman's Place is Weld County's only domestic violence safe house,
whose goal is to provide a confidential shelter for victims of domestic violence in one of Colorado's largest and still growing counties.
We just continue to see a growth in the need for our services, unfortunately, along with the growth in our community. With that limited capacity, we sometimes have to say no, which we hate to do.
Kelly Agnew, who's on the board for A Woman's Place, says each year they turn away 400 people seeking shelter because their safe house only has 8 rooms.
It can really be dangerous.
A danger they're working to avoid by building a new $7 million safe house.
It's been a 5+ year process of starting the conversations to where we are today, to being very close to being done with this new facility.
Expected to be completed in December, the new safe house will have 16 ADA accessible rooms, doubling their current number.
Our current safe house has been in use for decades.
Kelly says it's a change the people of Weld County have been calling for.
We've heard these stories. We know, that we're not meeting the need.
Giving more people who feel unsafe in their homes a safe place to go.
This is by no means enough, but it's something, and it's something really meaningful that we can do.
In Weld County, Colton Chavez, 9 News.
A Woman's Place says they are currently $1 million away from their $7 million fundraising goal, and they're hosting an event actually very soon, the Domestic Violence Month Gala at Ames Community College next Saturday. Eagle County Paramedic Services is now joining a growing number of emergency agencies launching a blood transfusion program. The agency is partnering with Denver Health and the American Red Cross to carry blood, allowing responding paramedics to start a blood transfusion before they can get the patient to a hospital. ECPS says the program is especially important in the rural county where response and transport times can take longer. If the paramedics don't use the blood they have in 7 days' time, it is returned to Denver Health. South Metro, Arvada Fire, and the Colorado Springs Fire Department all have started very similar programs. Looking ahead to Monday night, Aurora City Council is expected to vote on a resolution that would allow police to use new facial recognition technology. Council voted to move that item forward earlier this month, but council members still have some questions about how it will be used. Aurora police say the tech could help them solve crimes faster, improve officer safety, and help with identifying missing or at-risk people. Facial recognition relies on software to compare a photo of a suspect to a database of pictures. The goal is a match and identification. Aurora police say it would not allow officers to detain somebody just with a photo match. Rather, they say it would allow them to use it like a fingerprint. Critics note it does not always get it right. In fact, the program does struggle in particular with people of color. A state law requires public input and a report on its use before it can be approved.